It's just now being seen to a larger extent to be a foreign influence, foreign transfer of wealth. Now, there's been a huge plunge in vaccination rates. We reported on this last week. The Hollywood Reporter was up in arms, concerned that the wealthiest, most educated, elite people were not getting their children vaccinated like they should. Now we see another article where they're talking about a huge plunge in kindergartners' vaccination rates, and the officials are stumped. They're amazed. They say since 1950, however, the number of vaccines that children under 6 are expected to obtain has grown by 414%. Let's put that in perspective. A 414% increase in vaccines. Think a few decades ago, did you see everyone hawking vaccines everywhere? In grocery stores, in shopping centers, at drugstores, everywhere. I mean, basically, you can get a vaccination when you get a fill-up in your car anymore. We have seen, however, a much greater rise in autism, something that was also never seen before. Back in the 1960s, it was just 1 in 2,500 kids that came down with autism. Now that number is 1 in 68. That's how common autism is. That's about a 3,700% increase. Now, the article points out to say that it is a lie that diseases will spread without vaccinations at a 95% rate. That's what they're pushing as part of the narrative to try to coerce people into vaccinating their kids at this much, much higher rate. They talk about a herd immunity. Well, you don't need to have everyone vaccinated to get a herd immunity. That's part of the herd mentality. If your child is vaccinated, then if that vaccine is effective, they are protected from that disease. And hopefully, you would hope that it's safe. That doesn't appear to be the issue, and that needs to be the first issue. The first issue of the medical community should be do no harm. Now, they go on to say that most states fail to meet that goal of 95% immunity that the CDC puts out there. They say that rates have run as low as 65% in Colorado in years past and 75% in Florida without seeing a massive outbreak of diseases. And again, it is a question of risks. What are the risks of your child getting something like autism versus having measles for a week? You need to be informed of that risk. As a parent, you have a right to know. Now, as they proceed with this, scientists are grappling with the ethics of how they proceed with Ebola vaccines. Everything must be solved with a vaccination, of course. And they haven't proved them to be either safe or effective. And so the question is, how do we prove Ebola to be safe and effective? Once you have proven that it's safe, and they say that's a process that normally takes a very long time, we would hope that it does. We've seen that the CDC for a very long time has covered up safety issues of vaccines. They kept it a secret for 10 years after they lied about it on their study, but presumably that's something that would be vetted over a long period of time. But at what point do you tell people that these things are effective so now you can go mingle among the people that have Ebola without any protective clothing? Yet, throughout this article, and this is an article from the New York Daily News, they are talking about moving forward anyway. They say that should an unproven vaccine be given to everyone or to just a few? Should it be offered to healthcare workers first? Should the young be given it or the old? Should it be used first in Liberia, where Ebola is everywhere? These are the issues that they're looking at, and yet they say we must proceed. We don't really have time to fully vet this vaccine. That's what is most troubling about this entire scenario. Well, it's been an open secret that the Obama administration is arming Syrian rebels. Here's what the Syrian foreign minister had to say.
Syria's deputy prime minister is saying what we've all known for years, that the U.S. needs to stop arming its own enemies. In front of the United Nations General Assembly, he said, "What we see on the part of the U.S. administration is a double-standard policy and alliances to score certain political agendas through supporting with money, weapons, and training the groups they call moderate," referring to the Obama administration providing means to al-Qaeda rebels who splintered into ISIS. But ISIS aren't the only ones using arms courtesy of our current administration. Guns were walked into Mexico via Operation Fast and Furious. CBS obtained documents that top brass in the Justice Department did this in hopes of demonizing the Second Amendment. Even after it was exposed that Attorney General Eric Holder knew about the operation, President Obama refused to let a good crisis go to waste and blamed the American gun rights for the violence in Mexico.
But the main point I made to the President is that we support Mexican government's focus on reducing violence, and we look forward to continuing our good cooperation in any way that the Mexican government deems appropriate. I also reaffirmed our determination in the United States to meet our responsibilities, to reduce the demand for illegal drugs, and to combat the southbound flow of illegal guns and cash that help to fuel violence.
Whether it's across the border or across the world, don't let the fraud cross you without calling it out. You can find more reports at INFOWARS.com.
That's what's happening, but they prey on people's ignorance. In fact, I knew it would happen. Now I'm hearing that Assad in the news is protecting ISIS, which is Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda in Syria, Al-Qaeda in Iraq merged to form ISIS and then IS. That's on record. Doesn't matter. They're saying, oh, we might have to take out Assad too because he won't let us come in and take out ISIS. When ISIS was armed by the very same globalists. I mean, this is so evil.
Introducing the first proprietary oxygen-based intestinal cleanser, OxyPowder, backed by FDA-approved phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials. All the toxins from the air, the food, the water ultimately ends up in the gut or affects the gut. Take your health into your own hands and start cleansing your body today with OxyPowder. Secure your OxyPowder today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.
Now, an amazing article that's on InfoWars.com today. Adon Salazar discovers that police in Louisiana are urging residents to outfit their homes with police-run surveillance cameras and pay them for the privilege. And of course, this is the area around New Orleans where they were confiscating guns in the wake of Katrina. This whole scam was started by former New Orleans police officer Brian Lagarde, who now owns a digital surveillance wholesale company. No conflict of interest there. Actually, this is kind of like Big Brother meets small town boss hog. If you look at this, it's a kind of a small town version of the police industrial complex, complete with revolving doors from people who move from government to industry and profit from the fear mongering. But this is how it's going to work. A $10 monthly fee is required for residents interested in granting police access to their existing home cameras. And those who don't yet have camera systems can purchase entire kits from the officer's business for $295. Now, someone who's not too happy about this, a lawyer who looks at this, says legally binding assurances of due process, security, and accountability. Project NOLA has none of these in place. He says all the data from Project NOLA cameras and all the decisions about who sees what rests entirely in the hands of Lagarde. In other words, the guy who's running this private security business. Now, of course, the sheriff reassures everybody, says, we're not going to be going out there monitoring it unless something happens in the area or we have reports of suspicious activity going on in the area. Maybe you've got a neighbor who doesn't like you and starts telling them to watch you carefully. It reminds me of Stalin's quote, bring me the man and I'll find the crime. That's the issue of Big Brother, of course. And so now they found a way to profit from the police surveillance state, even in small town America. Now, Jerry Brown is not doing anything to stop surveillance in California. As a matter of fact, in spite of the California legislature voting to stop the use of drones without having a search warrant, without having a public announcement of the intent to buy and why they're going to use them. That was passed. It was a Republican bill. It was passed in the legislature. It went to Governor Jerry Brown, who, people of California, he is running for re-election. Keep this in mind. He vetoed that. Of course, that would put a big crimp in his plans to monitor everybody for water use. John Bound has that report.
California is now in their fourth year of severe drought, And a dozen communities in Northern and Central California may run out of water in 60 days. Sacramento's rice crop, Napa's vineyards, and the citrus groves of the San Joaquin Valley have been hard hit. 420,000 acres of farmland went unplanted this year, totaling a projected financial loss of $2.2 billion. Based on the amount of families seeking social services, UC Davis professor Richard Howitt predicts the drought will obliterate 17,000 farm worker jobs. A numerical allocation-based rate structure is being created by state and local water agencies for homeowners. Californians would be assigned a number for maximum indoor water use and another allocation for outdoor use. By surveilling every citizen's home using census records, aerial and satellite surveillance, and even the medical records, the state of California can fine $500 per violation after Stage 1 emergency regulations were passed in July. Felicia Marcus, a chairwoman for California's Water Resources Control Board, says their reservoirs are low, and half of the state's water storage is gone. Santa Monica's City Council is in the first stages of implementing a 68-gallon per person per capita restriction for every home with 4 people. Fines may apply beyond that allocation, and Santa Monica averages 88 gallons per person per day as it is now. According to the Los Angeles Times, downtown Los Angeles is the driest in it's history since record-taking began in 1877. John Bound for INFOWARS.com.
Well, that's it for our news tonight. If you're not a Prison Planet TV subscriber, please consider becoming one. Your subscription helps to support our operation, and you can share it with up to 11 other people at the same time. You can all watch the nightly news as it's happening, and they can have access to all of Alex Jones's documentaries. Well, that's it for tonight. Join us again tomorrow night at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Members can share their passcodes with up to 11 other people, and your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.